Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to Swayam Prabha, Channel 15, course title Human Resource Management, lecture title Recruitment and Selection Part 2. This is Module 7, Lecture 2. I am Dr. Soma Singupta, Associate Professor Commerce, Kamla Nehru College, University of Delhi. The topics covered are steps involved in selection procedure. We will continue with that, and here we will study employment interview, medical examination, reference checks, final approval, contract of employment. So in selection procedure, we have seen that the first step is preliminary interview, then application blank or application form, and we have covered the third step also, that is selection. Now we move on to the fourth step, that is employment interview. Employment interview is it is an interview. Whenever we talk about interview, it is a conversation between two persons, and specifically when we talk about employment interview, it is a formal in-depth conversation conducted to evaluate the applicant's acceptability. So it is a face-to-face communication between the interviewer and the interviewee being the prospective candidate for the job. It allows a two-way exchange of information between the organization and the candidate. Now, whenever we talk about test, here you are not seeing that person most of the time, the candidate. But when we talk about interview, there is a face-to-face interaction, and you can observe him in totality, his whole personality, his conversation skill, his manners and mannerism. Everything can be found out in an interview. His confidence also. So it should serve three purposes: obtaining information from the candidate, giving information to the candidate, establishing a friendly relationship, and creating motivation. The objectives of employment interviews are to cross-check or verify the information given by the applicant in the application blank. Also obtaining additional information from the applicant, also, and judging the candidate's qualification and qualities. So you are observing the candidate, and you can judge his qualities and qualifications also. Also, you can establish a rapport with him. This will create mutual understanding. Now, interviews facilitates giving general information to the applicant about the job also, like the job requirement, organization's policies, products manufactured, or services rendered by the organization. So it is not only to elicit the information from the candidate, but also you are in that process giving out all the information pertaining to the organization. So you are building organization's image among the applicants. It is considered to be an excellent selection device, basically because of its flexibility. So here face-to-face conversation is taking place. You can ask different types of questions. You can change the pattern of questions. So it is up to the interviewer. They can be adopted by for the purposes of unskilled, skilled, managerial, professional employees, all types of employees. For that, you can have an employment interview. There are certain limitations of interview. One, lack of knowledge on the part of interviewers. If the interviewer is not trained enough or knowledgeable enough, he cannot elicit the required kind of information from the interviewee or the prospective candidate. So the whole of the process loses its significance. There can be lack of planning and coordination that mars the interview process. There can be certain personal biases, like you have some stereotypical image like women are inefficient or that kind of thing. all those psychological limitations can be there, like halo effect, some behavior giving you some indication whether he will be efficient or not. Constant error is there in marking, or leniency error is there, the interviewer is giving good grades to everybody, or strict, he may be strict for everything. Projection is also there. This is again a psychological phenomena, what you are seeing, what you believe you are seeing in the candidate. Then stereotyping, as I said, that women are inefficient or old age people are inefficient. So that kind of stereotypical image if you have, then interview loses its significance. Then snap judgments can also take place, that with one or two questions and you are coming to a judgment, answers you are coming to a judgment, which may not be true. Then pressures to fill the position, for that you are being very lenient, you are taking up people who are unsuitable also, because there is a pressure to fill up the vacancy. Then the number of candidates available will also decide. If large number of applicants are there, you have wider choice, so you can ask a difficult question. But there is a problem, because time is a constraint, so you are judging people within 2 minutes interview or 3 minutes interview, so both positive and negative thing can happen. Then self projection is again a problem. Then different cues used by interviewers, so that again mars the interview, because you are giving cues to the candidate and not finding out everything from the candidate. So, and lastly, the interviewer's behavior. So interview, uh, if you are from the very beginning you are attacking the candidate, you cannot get the right kind of answer. So all these things depend upon how you are conducting the interview, or whether you are training the interviewers well in advance and removing all the biases that may be created during the interview process. Types of interview. First type is informal interview. As the name suggests, it may take place anywhere, no fixed time, no fixed place, venue. It is unplanned and it is used when the employee is needed urgently. So as and when you are meeting a person, you are talking with that person and interviewing, and you are taking him up for the jobs in the organization. Formal interview, again pre-planned, as the name suggests, it is pre-planned, formal. So it is held in a formal atmosphere. Everything, every aspect is decided in advance. The venue, time, panel, questions to be asked. So everything is decided in advance. Then similar to that is patterned or structured or directed or guided interview. Now here you are fully planned with the high degree of accuracy about everything, every aspect. Interviewer carefully selected and they are trained well. List of questions are prepared in advance. Fixed time is allowed to each candidate. That means you are not in a hurry. You are not devoting unequal time to different candidates. Standardized pattern is adopted to minimize bias and ensure uniformity. Um, and also you are not deep probing in case of structured or patterned interview. Next type of interview is non-directed or unstructured interview. It is exactly the opposite of the previous one. No set format is there. The interviewer can flow in many directions, so it is very flexible. Interviewee speaks freely, he has no pressure on him. Interviewer just listens and probes. Candidate in this process may reveal his actual self or his or her desires and problems. Assessment of the candidate's personality becomes possible in this type of interview. It lacks the structure and allows the interviewer to ask follow-up question and pursue points of interest as they develop. Interviewer should be competent person here also, because he has to keep the whole of the interview in track. So the candidate should not jump from one topic but just jumps out of the interview. So that is the discussion should not move out from the context. So that's he will act as a moderator in the interview. Lack uniformity and may not be able to collect relevant information. That is very much possible, because uniformity is not there. Two interviewers taking two different interview, different type of results will come. So that is non-directed and unstructured interview. Another is depth interview. As the name suggests, here candidates are examined in depth in the core areas of knowledge and skills required by the job and possessed by him. So deep probing is done in this type of interview. It should be conducted by specialists in the particular area and requires a mature understanding of the human behavior. Now, this depth interview is exactly opposite of the discussion interview. But here you can get in-depth knowledge about the candidate and whether he will be suitable for the job or not. Another type of interview is stress interview. Again, as the name suggests, to know how the applicant behaves in the stressful situations, such type of stress interviews are organized. Whether he will lose temper during the course of the stress, whether he gets confused, frightened or frustrated. So a stress like situation is given to him and he has to work on it, and observer will observe how he behaves during the stressful situation. Interviewer adopts a hostile behavior by asking different type of question, asking rude questions, criticizing his answers, keeping silent for unduly long period of time, asking too many questions simultaneously, making derogatory remarks, accusing him of lying. So these are different type of hostile behavior adopted by the interviewer. The idea is to find out how he behaves during this kind of stressful situation. Now it leads to some ethical questions regarding the nature of such interviews, and whether the interviewer actually has the skill to manage such type of interview and assess the candidate or not. This technique should be used along with other approaches, and it is used for the jobs requiring emotional balance and resistance to stress. So for such type of jobs only, stress interview should be organized. Another type of interview is group interview. As the name suggests, group of people are at a time, they are interviewed. So it is group rather than the individuals who are interviewed. A topic of discussion is given to them. Candidates are observed to find out, they discuss among themselves and they are observed to find out whether who leads, who participates, how they behave. So it's a kind of group discussion interview. Assumption is that behavior displayed in group situation is related to potential success in the job. So this is group interview method, but here again the observer should keep the discussion on the track. So he should he should be a moderator also, and also he should have the ability to observe and record the reactions of the candidates and behavior of the candidates. Panel or board interview is the last one. So here, rather than a group of interviewees, there are group of interviewers. So a panel of interviewers are there. So the idea is to see pool of collective wisdom and judgment of so many interviewers. Questions are asked in turn or at random. The candidate may be asked to meet the members individually for a lengthy interview. The idea of panel or board interview is judge the candidate from different aspects. Also, it reduces the chances of bias because one interviewer is not there, a panel of interviewers are there. The next heading is steps in the interview process, or in a way, guidelines for effective interviewing. First step or guideline is structuring the interview. That is preparations before the interview. Now, you know that interview is a time consuming and a costly affair. So it should be structured properly so as to elicit the required information from the candidate. So first determine the objectives, why the interview is conducted, what it purports to measure. Select the proper method of interviewing. Determining the type of information to be obtained from the candidate. Selecting the right interviewers, that is very important. The interviewers should be competent one, or they should be trained to conduct the interview. Setting a definite time schedule. for the interview, that is the timing is important. If you have large number of candidates, so deferred timing should be given to them, and while he is facing the interview, proper time should be given to that each one of them. It should not be that somebody is taking 45 minutes of interview, for other candidate it is just 2 to 5 minutes of interview. So consistency should be there in that also. Prepare a checklist of questions based on job duties and specifications to be asked to the candidate. Continuing with the preparation part, the next is train the interviewers. They should be competent, trained and experienced. Preparations by the interviewer has to be done, like the interviewer should read the resumes in advance and the job duties too. He should use the same question or standardize for all candidates to reduce bias. Objective criteria should be used to evaluate the interviewees' responses. Use multiple interviewers or panel interviewers to reduce bias. Control the interview by limiting the interviewer's question. Ensure that there should be minimum interruptions during the interview process. The next step in the interview process is physical setting. The place of interview should have the element of privacy. That is, hold the interview in a private room with a friendly setting. Comfortable setting should be there. It should be well lighted, free from noise. Provision for drinking water, newspaper, magazine should be there in the waiting room area. In the interview room, proper seating arrangement should be done. So in a way, the interviewee should feel at comfort or ease while appearing for the interview, while waiting, as well as while his interview is going on, so that he can speak out in a friendly tone. He can be he can express himself completely. There are certain guidelines for conducting the interview also. So during conduct of the interview, first establish a rapport with the candidate and make him comfortable. Greet the applicant, put him at ease. Start the interview with general questions like about the weather, which he can answer very easily. Know the applicant's status and make some extra efforts to relax him. While conducting the interview, listen carefully and record the observations and impressions clearly. Avoid close-ended questions to get complete and accurate information. Don't interrupt and put words in the candidate's mouth. Don't interrogate as if the person is a criminal. Don't be patronizing, sarcastic and unattentive or inattentive. Neither dominate nor let the interviewee dominate the interview. Compare the answers with whatever he or she has mentioned in the application in order to check the reliability of the candidate's answer. Next step is closing the interview. Now this is also an important step. Interviewer must not end the interview abruptly. Must close the interview tactfully and on a positive or happy note so that the candidate feels satisfied. The interviewer may show some sign at an appropriate time that he is closing the interview. So it should be done very swiftly on a positive note. Then evaluation of result. So this is again very important, that the evaluation may be done by assessing them by grades or by allocating marks. Here you have to minimize the bias, personal bias and prejudices. While evaluating, keep in mind the recorded answer, because you have made a note while the interview is going on. The interviewer has to record the responses or some mark he has to make, his impressions and their observations. So now again revisit all those records and observations. Decision in the form of ranking of interviewees or their selection or rejection are made on the basis of weightage given to information collected through application form, test scores, interview scores, reference checks, if any, and any other steps. So it is not only on the basis of interview, but you are matching it with other information and finally taking a decision. Next step is finally communication of the decision. the interviewee should be told where he stands. It is always advisable to analyze all the information and come to a decision, and there should be minimum time gap between the conduct of the interview and declaration of the result. And telling every candidate where he stood is very important, because otherwise they will keep on waiting for the interview results. Make rejections diplomatically. That means you have to again end it in a positive note. No harsh words should be used. If the decision could not be made but the candidate is still being considered, communicate that too. If the policy of the organization is to communicate in writing, it should be done within a few days of conduct of the interview. Now, after the whole process of interviewing, the selected candidates are subjected to medical examination. Applicants who have crossed the above stages are sent for a physical examination, either to the company's physician or to a medical officer approved for the purpose. This step is especially done for certain type of jobs where rigorous medical examination is conducted, like police job, semi-military and military services. For such type of jobs, medical examination is a must. The purpose of medical examination are: it identifies candidates who are physically fit, cost of selecting an unfit employee can be avoided, record of disabilities and employees' health at the time of appointment helps in settling companies' liabilities under Workmen's Compensation Act. So you are prepared for future liabilities also, and if that is not a job related disability, or it is not picked up during the course of doing the job, then you are relieved from that kind of compensation if the worker already had that problem during his appointment. So that record is there in his medical records. Prevent spread of contagious diseases. So you are not taking those employees who are suffering from some kind of contagious disease like tuberculosis. Jobs suitable for people who are differently abled. So you can find out if the person has some disability or he is differently abled. For that, for those type of people, suitable job will be given to them. Reduces absenteeism, accidents and labor turnover. If unfit people are taken, then this type of problem will be there, but if fit people are there, then you can reduce such type of problems. It ensures a higher standard of health and physical fitness of the employees, and in nutshell, it will add to the productivity of the organization. Now, those who are cleared from the medical examination also are selected. They move to the next stage, and that is reference checking. Already the applicant has mentioned the name of the referees in his application. So then the names and addresses of 2 or 3 persons who know him well act as a referee for that person. The referees, maybe the good referees, are previous employers, heads of educational institutes the candidate has attended, or public figures. The organization approaches them by mail or telephone and requests them to furnish their frank opinion. They are assured that the information will be kept confidential. In government organizations, the applicants are required to get the application forwarded through his present employers. So that in a way is a reference checking. The referee's opinions can be useful in judging the behavior and performance of a candidate. Also, you can find out whether he had any criminal record or not. Not reliable, as this method is not reliable, as these referees' name are given by the applicant. Obviously, he will give the name of those people with whom he has a friendly relationship. So this method is not reliable, as they are generally biased in favor of the candidate. Now, after the reference checking is done, the candidate is recommended by the HR department. So the candidates are shortlisted by the Human Resource Department and recommended to the different departmental heads. The recommended candidates are finally approved by the executives of the concerned department or departments. Now, Employment is offered in the form of an appointment letter mentioning the post, rank and salary grade, date by which the candidate has to join, other terms and conditions in brief. Finally, the selected candidates, they sign a contract of employment. A contract of employment is a contract between the organization and the employee. So it is also called employment agreement or bonds. It is an agreement between the organization and the employee. It may be on the judicial paper signed by both the candidate as well as the representative of the organization. Such contract should be drafted very carefully. If needed, the services of a law firm can be taken, because any of the point mentioned in the contract of employment can become a cause of dispute also later on. The basic information that should be included in a written contract of employment are job title, duties and date of commencement of employment, compensation, work timings, holidays, sickness benefits, disciplinary procedures and grievance procedures. All these things are mentioned in the contract of employment. So in the contract of employment, the appointment may be made by the organization on a probation basis for 1 or 2 years, and if the performance is found satisfactory, then he will be confirmed. Purpose of contract of employment is restraining the job hoppers, those who leave the job too often, protecting the knowledge and information that might be vital to a company's health or company's healthy bottom line, prevents competitors from poaching highly competent or valued employees. The drawback of employment contract is it is almost impossible to enforce it. If an employee decides to leave, he will leave anyways. He will leave by paying penalty or something. If a competitor has to poach, he will pay a higher compensation and the employee will definitely leave then. So, but still, in every organization, a contract of employment is signed between the new employee and the organization. To summarize, we can say that employment interview is a formal, in-depth conversation between the organization and the applicant. Applicants who have crossed the above stages, all the stages, are sent for physical examination to find out whether they are fit for the work. The referees are approached for their opinions about the candidates. The recommended candidates are finally approved by the departmental heads. Contracts of employment is then signed or it is a bond between the organization and the employee, and both the parties, they sign it, and finally the person is appointed in the organization. So this is the whole of the recruitment and selection procedure. For references, again, you can refer to book by Filippo or CB Gupta or Dale Yoder. And this is recruitment and selection is very important part of the whole of the human resource management function. Thank you, students. With this, we have come to an end of recruitment and selection part 2. This was module 7, lecture 2.